Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Buffalo. I am from the Samson Cree Nation and a proud member of the Alberta Next Panel, as well as a proud Albertan. I first off want to acknowledge that we're here on Treaty 6 territory, the gathering place of the Cree, Saulteaux, the Blackfoot, the Dene, and the Nakota Sioux, and as well as the Métis people. And we acknowledge all of the First Nations and Métis Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. And today, we're here for our people, for the people who came before us, for the people who come after us, and for everyone here tonight. So let's have a good conversation about our great province. I want to take this time to also introduce my good friend, Bruce McAllister, a fellow Junior B teammate from back in the day, back in Medicine Hat. He'll be your host tonight and moderator, so let's have a good evening. Thank you.
It's a true story. Stephen and I did play Junior B hockey together. He was actually one of the guys I'd look to hide behind when the going got tough. Thank you, Stephen. I don't know if I ever did thank you for that. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you all here. Welcome to the Alberta Next Panel Town Hall. My name is Bruce McAllister. What a pleasure to be your moderator. I'll say that right now. We'll see if I feel that way at the end of the night. We will hear from Premier Smith shortly. And we have assembled an amazing panel. I'm going to introduce you to everybody. They are regular Albertans just like you. There are a few of them that are elected. Just like you, they care deeply about this province. And we wanted to assemble a diverse group of individuals to hear what Albertans have to say and offer some feedback along the way as we go. So thank you for coming. I want to remind you that our panel will weigh in as the night goes on, but this night is about you. The goal is to hear what you have to say. I do want to set up sort of how things are going to go. To ensure things progress at a decent pace, I'll ask you to hold your applause and your jeers and those sorts of things so we can get to as many people as we can. Before I explain the flow of the evening, though, let me introduce our panelists, should we? Starting with our Premier, Danielle Smith. We have MLA Brandon Lunty, elected in May, Leduc Beaumont of 2023. MLA Tara Sawyer, our newest MLA, representing Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills. Dr. Benny Zhu, a registered acupuncturist with over 30 years of experience. My good friend Stephen Buffalo, who also says he has a crisis hotline for you Edmonton Oiler fans out there. We have Trevor Toome from the University of Calgary, an economics professor, fiscal policy expert. The Honourable Bruce MacDonald, former Alberta Court of Appeal judge, 2009 to 2023. Dr. Aiken Okaswati, family and emergency doctor in Didsbury. MLA Glenn Van Dyken, a long-serving MLA, a strong advocate for rural Alberta. We're glad to have Glenn with us. Melody Garner-Skiba, who is an experienced leader across agriculture, for sure, and we need that on this panel. Samita Aman is the Vice President of Business Development Above and Beyond Care Services. She's the chair of the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism. Andrew Judson is from the Fraser Institute, about 30 years in capital markets, private equity experience. Grant Fagerheim is the president and CEO of Whitecap Resources with extensive leadership in our energy sector. And we have a few not here today. I think Adam Legg from the Business Council of Alberta, Minister Rebecca Schultz, and Michael Binion are all away. So with Michael not here, you'll all get to say a little bit more. So that's a shot at my good friend, Mr. Binion. All right, so where were we? Well, why don't we do this? I would say the last 10 years has been tough for Alberta in many ways in dealing with the federal government. There's some things that we are challenged by that we would say are inequitable. And so our thought tonight was, let's address them, see where you are on these things. We'll raise some issues to discuss, get your feedback, and see what we do going forward and what might come from it. But maybe let's start with, and I didn't think I'd have to get to this early, but if we got people yelling and screaming, we're probably going to ask you to leave. It's just what we're going to do. Because I believe that most of you are here for a good discussion tonight, and that's what we want to do. So, Premier, can I call on you to maybe set the stage and say good evening? I know you'd like to greet people.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Bruce, for moderating tonight. And I do want to thank each of our panelists for taking so much time out of their summer to not only be here tonight, but also for the various events that we're doing. I think we've got 9 of these panel discussions, and we're just so delighted that you are here as well, participating in this important process as we go across the province to engage with Albertans. There's lots of things that you could be doing tonight, and so I'm so pleased that you're here with us having this conversation. I also know that one of the MLAs for the area is here tonight, Cyril Turton. Thank you so much for being here, Cyril. And it's so great to be here tonight to bring the Alberta Next Panel to our capital city. Edmonton is such a consequential part of Alberta. The provincial government is headquartered here. Some of the province's most important industries are located in and around the city. Many of the most important parts of our energy sector, our innovation ecosystem, and countless other sectors are here. And it is home to more than 1 million Albertans who care deeply about this city, this province, and our future. When Edmonton speaks, we listen. And I want to thank you all for coming out here to share your thoughts with us today and for choosing to participate in this crucial engagement process. The conversations we have tonight and throughout the Alberta Next engagement period will help to shape the future of our province. And I would encourage you to go and have a look at the last time the government did a process like this with the Fair Deal panel. That came up with 25 recommendations that have guided much of our work in the last 5 years. For instance, we had the equalization referendum, which was an idea that came out of that panel. The panel wanted us to reduce internal trade barriers. We have done that across the country. It wanted us to create economic corridors, and we have signed many economic corridors agreements. They wanted us to challenge federal legislation in our area of jurisdiction, and we've got about 15 lawsuits going in that regard. They wanted us to establish our own chief firearms officer, which we did. They wanted us to create a presence in Ottawa, which we now have. We have an office in Ottawa that is representing us. They wanted us to diversify our energy sector. We have done that in spades. I think I should mention Brad Fagerheim runs the only net zero energy company in the country, and he's headquartered in Alberta. Also, they wanted us to relentlessly pursue more market access, which we have, as well. Referenda and citizen-initiated referenda came out of that panel discussion as well. So this is just an example of some of the ideas that came out of this kind of process the last time, and we're looking forward to seeing similar great ideas come out this time. For the last 10 years, as we know, Ottawa has taken direct aim at Alberta's core industries, from Bill C-69 to the tanker ban, the oil and gas emission cap, which we know is a production cap, and their net zero mandates on everything from electricity to vehicles and beyond. In just the last 10 years alone, more than $500 billion in global investment capital destined for our resource sector has disappeared. That's cost us hundreds of thousands of jobs and hundreds of billions of dollars in GDP and resource revenues that would be spent on healthcare and education and public infrastructure. If Canada is to be a strong and unified country, it must include a strong and sovereign Alberta within it, able to pursue our own potential without being held back by our own country. And that's why we've launched the Alberta Next Panel, where your voice, your ideas, and your values will help to shape Alberta's road ahead. Regardless of what any one of us believes about these issues or what path we think is best, we as Albertans must be able to respectfully debate and discuss these issues here with our friends, with our family, with their neighbours. I know that if we can do that in the end, our province will find the best solutions for the immense challenges we face and will come out stronger and more free than ever. I will always put my faith in Albertans to find that right path because I trust you. And I look forward to hearing from you tonight and from Albertans across the province throughout this process. We will have a number of videos that you're about to see that will lay out the themes for Alberta Next. And then, of course, in the end, we're going to open it up and hear ideas from you. So we know by going through this process, we are going to have a stronger Alberta within a united Canada. And thank you so much for participating.
All right, thank you, Premier. As I said, we want to hear from as many of you as possible. So let me run through how things are going to go if you're not familiar. We've prepared 6 very short videos on topics that we are hearing from Albertans like you. They are equalization and transfers, an Alberta pension plan, a provincial police force, constitutional changes, immigration reform, and provincial tax collection. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a video on each of these topics. They're relatively short videos. If your issue, by the way, is not one of these, no problem. We've got, if it pertains to Alberta Next and how we're doing with Ottawa, we'll have a half an hour at the end where we can address those. But as for other issues that you might have a burning desire to share, we're going to focus on Ottawa and Alberta tonight and where we can go forward. We do have some staff members in the room that will address other comments if they come up. But this is about our province's future, about our relationship with the federal government, and what comes next and what Albertans want to see from their Premier and their government. So while the video plays, there are 2 microphones here. I'll ask you to come on up and get in line if that's a topic that you want to talk about. If you just have a comment, that's fine too. 45 seconds, hopefully 45 respectful seconds to make your comment. If you have a question for a panelist, you can certainly ask that. And because we want to hear from as many people as possible, what we have found at the first 2 is that some people want to speak to every topic. And so I'm just going to stop you on that. If that was your plan coming in here tonight, we'd rather not do that because I think it discourages others from getting up and sharing what might be on their mind. If you do have a burning desire, on a second topic or those kinds of things, we just want to make sure we get through everyone else in line before we get back to you, just to be fair. And again, we'll have some time at the end. And then after the main event, what we'll do is we'll hang around for a while and mingle. And maybe you didn't want to come to the mic, but you want to have a one-on-one conversation with one of these people. So we'll save a half an hour near the end. Sound good? Ready to go? Awesome. Okay. Well, we're going to be here a while, so let's have some fun together tonight and have a good discussion. We can disagree without being disagreeable. That's the goal. So the first video, please, on equalization and transfers.
Our next topic is reforming federal equalization and transfers. Since 2005, Alberta taxpayers have contributed, on average, $23 billion more per year to the federal government in federal taxes than they received back in projects, benefits, and other spending from Ottawa. That's a net loss to Albertans of nearly $500 billion in just 20 years. Most of those redistributed Alberta tax dollars are spent by Ottawa and Quebec and other liberal-leaning provinces across the country. And part of that massive fiscal transfer out of Alberta comes through the Federal Equalization Program, which has seen Alberta pay over $67 billion into the program since 1957, while receiving back not a single penny since 1965. In 2021, Albertans voted in a referendum to remove equalization from the Constitution, but Ottawa completely ignored us. So what next? Alberta can't stop these federal transfers on its own. The Alberta government doesn't write a check to Ottawa each year, and we can't ask Albertans to stop paying their federal taxes. The fact is, fixing this problem will require political support from other provinces. One option that would be appealing to most other provinces is to have the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes. This is how it could work. Currently, Ottawa collects over 60% of all the federal and provincial taxes that Canadians pay. The Ottawa bureaucracy takes its portion, with the remainder inefficiently and unequally distributed to the provinces. The dollars we do get back have a lot of strings attached, forcing us to run our provincial programs and build infrastructure the way Ottawa wants us to. No provinces want that, especially the big ones like Quebec, Ontario, BC, and Alberta. What if we cut out the middleman and instead had provincial governments that are responsible for delivering health, education, and social services, collect around 60% of all taxes, with Ottawa receiving the rest? Ottawa, in turn, would be able to end most transfer programs to the provinces, along with all the strings, bureaucracy, and waste attached to them. Quebec has already proposed having the federal government let provinces keep GST revenue generated in their provinces in return for ending the federal health transfer. Seems like a great idea. Why not apply that same logic to all federal transfers? Less money collected and wasted in Ottawa. Less federal transfers with only a modest amount of equalization for the smallest provinces and territories that actually need it. And more funds for provincial health, education, and other programs, without strings attached by Ottawa's politicians and bureaucrats. That seems like something most provinces could rally behind. So what say you, Alberta? Should Alberta take a lead role in working with the other provinces to reform federal transfers and equalization by having the provinces collect a larger share of overall taxes, with Ottawa collecting less? And are there any other strategies Alberta should be looking at to alleviate the massive federal fiscal drain to Alberta? For more information, visit alberta.ca/next.
Test, test. Pretty big room, and I don't see a big lineup of speakers, which is interesting. But I do see at least one, so we'll get started. And the gentleman that said bad idea, you're welcome to come up, take 45 seconds to tell us what your idea is. You totally are. So why don't we start over here? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name's Greg. I'm a tech entrepreneur here in Edmonton, and I've founded and grown my businesses right here. And my response to the question is actually, in all 6 questions on the agenda tonight, is that Alberta doesn't really want you doing this right now. We don't want this. We're worried about health, we're worried about education, and we're worried about poverty. Too many of our neighbors are living under a tarp to be talking about transfers. We're simply not concerned.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. And suddenly the lines are full. Let's go over to this side.
Sure, my name is Brett Olin. I'm the CEO of Bow Valley Credit Union. The best way to have economic sovereignty is through currency sovereignty. Alberta and the Western world are in a sovereign debt crisis, where Canada is at the point where it's printing currency to pay all its bills, moving us closer towards bankruptcy. Alberta can have fiscal sovereignty by balancing the budget, if it balances the budget. But it will never have sovereignty over monetary policy unless there's a constitutional amendment, which may be very unlikely. Through an equalization payment, there should be an embedded formula to counteract this monetary debasement of robbing Albertans from their savings and their capital. Alberta policymakers should also advocate for gold and Bitcoin to keep their
Brett,
monetary...
I'll let you go by 45 to maybe 50 or so, but then I got to cut it off. So thank you. And I'll try to be fair, regardless of what side of the coin you might be on tonight. I will try to give you past 45 if it's making some sense. Okay, let's go over here. Yep.
Prior to the 2023 election, the UCP made a guarantee that no Albertan would have to pay out of pocket for health care. We already pay for our health care through our taxes.
Can I just stop you for a second? Like, I get it on the health care, the education, those kinds of things. So and not only that, we have people in the room that'll take, if you've got a health care issue, you can talk to them about it. But tonight is about Alberta Next and the relationship with Ottawa, with Ottawa, right? Ottawa's relationship with Alberta. You're welcome to talk about it. If you have an Alberta issue,
no, this is our provincial government. I'm a citizen of Alberta.
I hear you, ma'am.
I need the right to speak to my premier.
Thank you.
Alberta does not want this. Now reset my clock.
So I got you. Thank you very much.
Reset the clock.
Okay. please lose that mic, and we're going to go over here, okay? Go ahead over here.
Hi there. Many Albertans support the idea of gaining more provincial autonomy. However, the reality is that major changes like reforming equalization, taking control over immigration, or withdrawing from CPP are not within Alberta's sole authority. Equalization is entrenched in the Constitution and fully controlled by the federal government. Any constitutional changes would require approval from Parliament and at least 7 provinces representing over 50% of Canada's population, meaning those provinces would have to agree to give up funding that currently benefits them. Immigration remains federally dominated, and even creating a separate Alberta pension plan would require prolonged and complex negotiations with Ottawa. My question is twofold.
Yep.
Given these significant legal and political barriers, do you believe this process will lead to meaningful provincial autonomy, or are Albertans being given false hope for changes that in practical terms may never materialize?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. Premier, can I throw that one at you, and then I'd like to ask someone else in the panel.
Well, sure, you've got to start somewhere, and I think we started the conversation on equalization in particular through a referendum. And initially, I think we had hoped that there'd be a reaction from Ottawa. There wasn't, but I'll tell you what did happen. What happened is that Newfoundland and Labrador started asking why it is they end up giving money into Confederation to pay for transfers that go to Quebec when they are the most indebted province in the country and one of the smallest populations. And so they launched a legal challenge saying this isn't fair. British Columbia joined it, as did Saskatchewan. So now you've got 4 provinces and us all saying the equalization system isn't working for us and we've got to change it. So that's the reason why you have the conversation, you start it, because then it creates a point where you can find the common ground with others. And I think we may find some common ground on some of those other issues too.
Okay. Thank you, Premier. There'll be more technical points on this one. I'd love to hear from Trevor too, but Trevor, I'm going to just save you for 1 second. I'd love to go to this microphone, but that lady doesn't seem to want to give it up. So let's go back over here for the next question.
So first off, let's address some misinformation that we've received. Albertans do not pay equalization payments. We pay taxes like the rest of Canada. And we do not pay more taxes than other provinces. Ontario pays a lot more than we do. So let's get that straight. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready for this microphone over here? Not quite. So we'll go back over here.
Respectfully, when I travel, and I travel extensively, when I'm asked where I'm from, I don't say I'm an Albertan first. I say I'm a Canadian first. And so I just wanted to answer this question by saying I feel, as a Canadian who pays taxes, that it's right for us to pay for everyone.
Okay, thank you. We can go to this side.
I am on topic because I'm talking about sovereignty. Alberta Next Panel was promoted with the goal of strengthening Alberta's economy and ensuring its future in confederation and not to promote separation.
Absolutely.
The email supplying this address says we can speak only on topics that advise on how Alberta can strengthen its sovereignty within a united Canada.
You bet.
Yeah. Alberta.ca says your Sovereignty Act will not allow Alberta to separate from Canada. Now, I think it's a sovereignty or a united Canada. So, Danielle Smith, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada? And will you sign this petition?
Thank you.
Well, my very first bill was Bill Bill 1, which was Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. It was the very first action that I took when I became Premier. And I can tell you that one of the things I have to do when I travel internationally, because I am also Minister of International and Intergovernmental Relations, is to let people know that we have one of the most decentralized federations in the entire world. So when I go to Mexico and speak with Pemex, and they want to know about fracking, and they want to know about their gas development, they want to know about pipelines, they want to know about natural gas, electricity, they shouldn't be going to Ottawa. They should be coming to Edmonton and Calgary to find out how it is we do it and how we can collaborate. And that's how our founders created our country, so that each of us have areas of jurisdiction that we are exclusively responsible for. The federal government likes to invade our areas of jurisdiction. The provincial governments don't invade areas of federal jurisdiction. We had 112 times. There's a provision at the federal level called disallowance. So the federal government has struck down provincial laws in the past. That's why we don't have our own currency. Much as the Bow Valley Credit Union guy might like us to have one, it's because we're not allowed to do that, because that's federal jurisdiction. So they should have the same respect for our jurisdiction as we do for theirs, is what I would say. So yes, I do believe in a united Canada and an Alberta sovereign within it.
Thank you, Premier. Okay, let's go over here next.
I just wanted to say that the contention, the whole panel is based on the idea, or set up on the presumption that the federal feds are holding Alberta back. This contention is demonstrably false. I would like to remind particularly the Premier that the feds, can you let me speak, please? That the feds invested $4.5 billion in the TMX extension. I don't think I have to say more. I think that point's made. Yep. Also, can you let me speak, please?
I'll tell you what, you're over, but I'm going to grace, okay? Go ahead, make your point, because you're well past 45.
Yeah, so the only other thing I want to say is I installed solar panels recently in my home. I got grants and an interest-free loan from the federal government, and I got squat from the Alberta government.
All right.
Okay. Bruce?
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Do you want to get Grant Fagerheim, who's in the industry, to comment on whether or not the feds have been helpful to the industry?
If anybody has perspective on dealing with the federal government, dealing with the provincial government in this space, it would be Mr. Fagerheim. Grant, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, sure I will. I just think that in Alberta, we're so resource rich with our oil and gas and oil and natural gas, coal, and all types of products. Using we'll call the newer age energy products, I think is important if they can stand alone without, from my perspective, without incremental federal funding. So here we are, we're being stopped in essence from advancing our products to the world market because of some of the challenges that we have with the federal government. And Premier Smith is together with Premier Moe, are working very hard to how do we not only drill for and extract our volumes, get it to international markets through pipeline corridors, et cetera. So I think what we should be doing is celebrating, from my perspective, all forms of energy products, but specifically oil and natural gas that we can extract and take to market within for the benefit of not just Albertans, but all Canadians. And first of all, Albertans first, but we're being penalized by not even able to extract our volumes. So I think that's where, from an energy perspective, representation, that's what I can say.
Thank you, Grant. This is going to be really hard to keep on time and keep every topic to its own time frame. I'm going to do my best. We're already over, but we've only got a couple of speakers left in this one. So if you're in the line, you're saying, what? Stay in the line and speak to another topic that's coming up. So let's go over here next.
Okay, I'm speaking on sovereignty as a whole. Premier Smith, you have a choice. You can be remembered as a leader who deepen pain and fear for those who already bear the heaviest burdens, or you can choose a different path, one that lifts people up, earns respect, and inspires pride and leadership. Build on Alberta, where sovereignty means dignity, justice, and pride, not profit, oppression, and shame. True sovereignty means dignity for all Albertans. Out of respect for the panel's mandate, I want to speak out about what sovereignty within Alberta should mean and what it was never become. We cannot claim sovereignty while taking from the vulnerable and then kicking them down again and again, stripping away their ability to survive, to eat, to stand. In today's Alberta, putting food on the table is becoming a privilege, not a right. That is not strength, that is cruelty. We also cannot claim to defend Alberta's future while selling it off to the highest bidder that this is not our land to sell. It belongs to the Indigenous peoples, and any vision for sovereignty that ignores that truth is built on injustice. In truth, this here...
Thank you. So, thank you. Definitely got the message. Thank you. Let's go over here.
Can I just comment? I mean, the reason why we want to develop our resources and get them to market is to do exactly what you're saying, is to address the healthcare, the education, and the vulnerable sector. I just want to put it out there. If we had built Northern Gateway, which was approved and cancelled by Trudeau, if we'd built Energy East, which was advanced, but then pulled the plug because they couldn't see their way through to getting approval, if we'd built Keystone XL, if the federal government had advocated for 1 minute on our behalf to keep that pipeline going, we would have had an additional 2.5 million barrels per day of production today, which would be generating about $55 billion per year in additional GDP, of which governments would be getting about 40% of that. You can build a lot of schools and hospitals and roads with that kind of money. That's why we're advocating for it.
That's it. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd just like to say, for those of you who don't like the term equalization, but you're interested in hospitals being built and schools being built and funding our poor, you should be interested in more of the economic activity that generates wealth in Alberta staying here. And that's exactly what this question is about. Now, having said that, I do think this question really is moot for this panel, because as was raised before, you need a constitutional change to get rid of equalization, and then you need political will to change the formula. Stephen Harper was responsible for creating this formula. Pierre Poilievre has said recently he has no interest in changing it, and that makes them both consistent with the Liberals and Quebec and the other provinces who take.
Okay, so before we move on, Trevor Toome, you've got some expertise in this, and I think it'd be worth you providing a little insight or perspective from what you've done.
Yeah, happy to. And I guess I'll keep it tight, I promise. On the point of whether or not this is moot or not, I think some perspective, some historical perspective is important, like transfers to provinces, public finances generally, how things are split and shared between governments. That's a tough issue because Canada is so diverse and, as the Premier noted, so decentralized. It's almost impossible to have a single federal policy, create anything but winners and losers regionally. And so throughout Canadian history, there's calls for reform, concerns raised by some regions at some point in time and then other regions at other points in time. And typically the federal government is responsive to those concerns and reforms are enacted. And we're now approaching nearly the longest period of time where equalization has not seen any material reform to a structure. And there's lots of changes that could be made. And so it's processes like this, it's concerns raised by Alberta, but not just Alberta, Newfoundland and Labrador, also challenging equalization. And so the federal government needs to think about whether those concerns can be responded to, as they were in 2007, for example, with big changes to both equalization and health transfers. So I think it is important for provinces to raise concerns, and that's common throughout history.
Thanks, Trevor. Okay, so we have a straw poll, okay, before we move on to the next topic. And the straw poll is this. Should Alberta take a lead role in working with the other provinces to reform federal transfers and equalization? Who says yes, we should? Who says no, we shouldn't? Well, interesting result. Everybody saw that okay? Because it gets pretty loud in here sometimes, and then I just want to make sure you all saw it. All right, let's move to our next video, and that will be on the Alberta Pension Plan.
Our next topic is creating an Alberta pension plan with the same or better benefits than the Canada Pension Plan. With a younger and more productive workforce, Alberta workers contribute about $3 billion more each year to the Canada Pension Plan than Alberta seniors receive in benefits. Alberta has the constitutional right to exit the CPP. And if we did, federal legislation says that Alberta would be entitled to a sizable share of the CPP assets that we could use to start our own provincial pension plan, so long as we guarantee comparable pension benefits for seniors. Quebec made the decision to start its own pension plan decades ago, and they have an agreement with Ottawa so that all retirees receive their full pension benefits, whether they worked in Quebec, retired there, or some mix of both. Alberta could negotiate a similar arrangement with Ottawa if we created our own pension plan. There are more factors to consider as well. Currently, virtually all investment decisions and management of the CPP is conducted by folks working in Ottawa and Toronto rather than Alberta. While the CPP's mandate is to maximize pension returns, in recent years, the CPP annual reports have shown an increasing focus on emissions reductions and DEI concerns, which do not always result in the highest rate of returns for the pension plan. CPP management has also become bloated and expensive. 20 years ago, the CPP had only 150 employees, with operating costs of $118 million. Today, it has ballooned to more than 2,100 employees, with operating costs of about $6 billion. If Alberta opted to commence its own pension plan, the fund would be managed out of Alberta by Albertans, and investments could be focused exclusively on maximizing returns rather than adjusting for carbon dioxide and DEI-related objectives. With that all said, the CPP has consistently generated healthy returns and is a stable and critical source of income for seniors in Alberta and Canada. So, what are the benefits of Alberta choosing to withdraw from the CPP to create its own pension plan? 1. A big upfront payout. Alberta would get back a significant lump sum by exiting the CPP. The chief actuary in Ottawa has indicated our share would be at least $140 billion. That's plenty to start and build a strong Alberta pension plan from day one. 2. Better benefits for seniors, lower premiums for Alberta workers. Thanks to our younger, more productive population, an Alberta pension plan could result in Alberta workers paying lower pension premiums on their paychecks, or seniors enjoying higher pension benefits, or a mix of both. 3. Local control and boosting our economy. An Alberta pension plan would be managed right here at home, creating more jobs and growing Alberta's financial sector. We would also be insulated from the economic and demographic decline in Canada. Our investment decisions could also be steered clear of ideological decision-making and instead remain focused on the long-term rate of return for Alberta pensioners. But there are some risks to consider. 1. Uncertain payout. The CPP exit rules aren't clear in the federal legislation, and Ottawa is notoriously anti-Alberta with its decisions. So the size of the lump sum Alberta is offered could be lower than it should be. This could result in a lengthy court battle with the federal government, and it could lower our ability to increase benefit payments for seniors or lower premiums for workers. 2. Long-term risk. As with any pension plan, if the plan is mismanaged or Alberta's economy and demographics fall behind Canada, premiums would have to rise in the future in order to guarantee our seniors the same benefits they enjoy today under the CPP. Regardless, as with Quebec, Alberta's government would still be able to guarantee that an Alberta pension plan provide the same or better benefits to Alberta seniors as they now enjoy under the CPP. 3. Portability concerns. The Quebec pension plan and CPP have an agreement in place to ensure pensioners get the same single pension, regardless of where they worked or lived in Canada during their career. Alberta would expect a similar arrangement with Ottawa, but it is not guaranteed. So, should Alberta withdraw from the CPP and use Alberta's portion of the CPP to create our own Alberta pension plan? Or should we continue with the CPP as we do now?
This straw poll is going to be fun at the end. I promise you'll all have your chance to raise your hand to it. So again, I'll remind you, and I'll remind you, like 45 seconds on topic, please. And panelists, I think it's fair. If I call on you, let's try and be succinct. Except for you, Premier, because you're the boss. Okay, on the Alberta pension plan, let's go over here first.
Is it on? Okay, thank you. Elder Taz, hi Bruce. Just wanted to mention, you know, there's an awful lot of immigrants in this room, and I'm First Nations, Indigenous to this land, and I'm really offended that anybody would think they could divide our treaties, they could divide our land to their whim and wishes, because what? They want money. You know, money is your God, and that's shameful. That really is. And when you talk about people who should be wealthy in this land, Treaty 8 territory, which I'm a member of, where the oil sands sit, we should all be as rich as the Arabs, but we're not. So who are ripping us off?
Okay. So I'm going to guess you're not a fan of an Alberta pension plan. Put you in the no category. Okay, let's go over here.
Oh, okay. Wow. Good evening, fellow Albertans. My name is Catherine Speck. I'm Albertan born and bred. Thank you, Premier Smith, for being a truly democratic leader, willing to listen to your citizens. There's no other premier who holds town halls so that we can have our voice. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I apologize on the behalf of these rude Edmontonians, God knows. Anyways, every federal election, by the way, my question has more to do with the previous one. Every federal election, we know once Ontario's votes are counted, our future government is decided. Alberta has 37 seats in the House of Commons. The entire 4 provinces of the West have a total of 108 seats.
Yes.
Ontario alone has 122 seats, and Quebec, 78 seats.
And the question?
So, the question is, isn't it unrealistic of us to expect any change when constitutional changes require 7 of the 10 provinces to agree?
Yep.
We have absolutely no.
Yep. That's a good question. Thank you. I know who I wish was here tonight, Premier. I wish Michael Binney was here tonight, but I wonder about Andrew, or would you like to direct this one?
I was just going to say we have a whole section that's going to be talking about the distribution of seats. Do you want to save that one for later?
Okay, fair. And I probably should have asked you to come up during that, but gosh, you were just so nice. So thank you. Okay, next question over here.
So you said that bureaucracy is a lot in Ottawa for managing the previous one. You said they have a lot of bureaucracy. So you want to create more bureaucracy in Alberta to manage the pension by saving us money. That's interesting. And you say that Canada is against Alberta. I don't know why you think it's like that. I don't think Canada is against any province. They have any reason. Please let me talk. So if they have a reason for saying that, like, you shouldn't have this pipeline or that pipeline is for Indigenous lands or for the climate change or everything. You said that net zero in the pension plan, you have problem with that. So you have problem with the climate change. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Andrew Judson, do you want to jump in here real quick?
Yeah, let me just say that, you know, the pension issue is certainly, it's an emotional issue. It's certainly an intimidating issue. People feel very strongly around the stability and the security around that pension. But I will tell you, from a mathematical perspective, there's no question that a standalone Alberta pension would be viable and sustainable. And there's just no question that as an Alberta resident contributing to the CPP, you would be well ahead on an equivalent Alberta pension. So the math works, but when we understand that this is obviously a very emotional issue. By the way, the response on this question in both Red Deer and Edmonton South previously has been very similar, and I expect it will be at the rest of the town halls we're holding.
It'll be interesting. Andrew, thank you. Okay, you, sir.
For the opportunity to speak. My name is David. I'm a tech entrepreneur who's founded, grown, and sustained a 30-year-old software company right here in Edmonton. Albertans, like all Canadians, face complex challenges that require complex solutions. Albertans need our government to squarely focus on the urgent and important issues we really face: healthcare, education, social disorder, and sustainability. Alberta does not want this. Not just this particular topic, but all 6 topics on the agenda.
Thank you, Andrew.
We need real leadership, and I'd like to remind everyone that the Premier has not responded to the question of whether she would sign the petition.
Okay. Let's go over here.
Hi, my name is Terry, and I'm a lifelong Albertan. And my concern's to address communication overall. But the pension plan is just one of those issues. All these other issues are interrelated. I believe that the pension plan is, past behavior is the best predictor of future performance. And the federal government, who it was almost insolvent in 1995, they changed the rules, appointed a board. Part of the provinces were all tapping into the Canada pension plan, and they're using that to get low-interest loans for many years. That's why it was going insolvent, and that's why we should go to an Alberta pension plan. The other one is communication. I think that Alberta should create a Secretariat of Canada Relations, just like Quebec has done in January of 2025. They actually started a Secretariat of Canadian Relations so they can actually have a board and a structure set up. And we should even have a provincial ministry maybe that would actually address interprovincial relations. With all these trade issues that are happening now, why aren't we doing that? Good to hear that the Premier said that in Ottawa they have an office now, but also in all the other provinces. Quebec has started one, and they actually have all these different...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Look, it's tough to do it in 45 seconds. It really is. Thinking about going to a coffee shop and trying to make a point on this in less than a minute. It's a little bit difficult. But to get all of these topics in, we find that's the sweet spot. So let's do our best. Go ahead over here.
Hi, my name is Delina McLean. My family originates from Belfast, Ireland. So I'm very similar situation going on here to what happened in the past. My great-grandparents came here because of the division, politicians seeking power and religious cults doing what they would. Just go back to Belfast, Ireland, any of you. You have a look at the peace walls, see where this all heads. My background is actually in financial services. So in regard to the Alberta pension plan, I would say no, do not leave the CPP, but instead layer an Alberta pension plan in addition to the CPP.
Appreciate that. I think that's been raised.
I have 2 more points.
Okay, go ahead.
Additionally, the wealth inequality in Alberta is immense. In fact, it's growing the fastest under this government than anywhere else in any other territory or province in the nation, which is appalling, kindly put. And I see solutions to that happening by adding additional tax brackets and increasing the tax rates.
Going way over.
Okay? And then thirdly, a remuneration.
Sorry. Thank you. Let's try and address a couple of those at least. I would normally go to Trevor Toome, I think, first.
Oh, I caught off guard here.
Do you have anything to add on the wealth inequality? Are you seeing that? Is Alberta worse than the rest of the country?
Oh, actually, provinces are quite similar in terms of the level of inequality that you see across them if you measure it with a Gini coefficient. Quite similar. For example, where Alberta stands out is it has the lowest poverty rate by a wide margin in the country of any province. So I'd say there's not a unique inequality challenge for this province relative to others.
Okay.
And Bruce, do you think maybe, Andrew, I think you could elaborate on the study that the Fraser Institute did, because I think you looked at, well, it goes directly to what she was suggesting about having an additional contribution and how that might be able to grow, because that's exactly what you determined, is that
Yes.
we'd be able to have an additional contribution rate.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when you look at contribution rates, because of Alberta's youthful employment base, the higher standard of employment and the higher medium wage, that the equivalent amount of pension benefit could be delivered through a standalone pension. And if the savings that you would then have left in the consumer, the worker's pocket, was contributed to an additional supplemental program, that's where the really big differential arises. And so over a 20-year, 25-year working life, where you've avoided pension premiums at the federal level and been able to take that savings and reinvest it in a parallel program, as was considered, the numbers become, very significant indeed, farther ahead.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, we got time for a few more on this topic on the potential of an Alberta pension plan.
Hi, my name's Glenn. I'm from St. Albert. I'm going to go really quick because I'm going to try and hold to your time frame. I was in favor of an APP until I started investigating. Why should we trust you with our pension money when Amico and the Heritage Fund have underperformed compared to CPP over the past 10 years? Or when you suggest that emissions reduction and DEI policy affects rates of return with no evidence? Or when you ignore the fact that CPP invests heavily in oil and gas? Why should we trust the Fraser Institute report on APP that uses CPP rates of returns for calculation rather than the rates of returns of provincially managed funds, or that doesn't account for the thousands of seniors that leave the province to retire, or that Alberta receives a disproportionately high amount of CPP disability benefits versus the rest of the country? Yep. Why should we trust the Fraser Institute report? Okay. Wait a second. I'm going to...
Gotcha. Don't trust them. What was it? Was it Diefenbaker that said trust but verify? Reagan. But I think Diefenbaker did too. Anyway, we've got time over here, and I got to remind everybody: if you're coming back to the mic and you've been to the mic, you're taking away from somebody else that's in the line that we want to come to. So Bruce, just keep that in mind. Sorry, somebody call my name?
Yeah, I'll just quickly jump in here. Alberta's demographic advantage for a pension plan is really hard to overstate. Like, my own estimates are, so put aside the analysis of others, is that the Alberta pension plan, given our demographics, could just get a 3% real rate of return and still be equivalent to the Canada pension plan. Okay. It's a pretty big gap.
Okay, so Trevor, that's why I was throwing it to you originally there, but I realized I caught you out of the blue there. So anyway, as I said, folks, if you've been to the mic, you need to let the next person come to the mic. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. Like we've done it in every other place. It's fair. It's equitable. So let's do it over here, and then we're going to do a straw poll. Okay?
My turn? If the goal is to trigger real binding negotiations with federal government, would it not serve Albertans better to ask a direct referendum question such as, should Alberta become a sovereign nation and independent from Canada, as a more decisive and transparent path to constitutional negotiations?
Okay. Do you want to make comment before I go to the poll?
It's before the court right now. There is the Alberta Prosperity Project is attempting to get a question similar to that verified, and the court has determined as of today that they are going to do a constitutional lens test on it. So I'll just leave the court to go through their process.
Okay. Let's do the poll, and we've got 4 more big topics to get to. So the poll is: should Alberta create a pension plan with the same or better benefits than the Canadian pension plan? Those of you that say yes. Those of you that say no. Okay. Let's roll the next video. The next topic we're going to discuss a provincial police force.
Our next topic is the potential creation of an Alberta police service to take over community policing from the RCMP. Today, roughly 80% of Albertans are served by local municipal police services, such as the Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge City Police Services. However, Albertans living in most rural communities and a few mid-sized cities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie are policed by the RCMP under Alberta's policing contract with Ottawa. And as is the case with most federal agreements, Alberta is getting shortchanged. To be clear, RCMP police officers and staff aren't the problem. They do all they can to protect us with the resources they have. The problem is Ottawa. Because the federal government is failing to provide the number of promised officers and resources to Alberta communities under the policing contract, response times are slow, staffing is stretched thin, and officers are often moved across the country at a moment's notice, resulting in little connection to the Alberta communities they serve. Furthermore, because of French language requirements, English-speaking Alberta officers do not qualify for senior RCMP positions. And ultimately, the RCMP's policing priorities are chosen by the federal government in Ottawa, rather than the provincial government in Alberta. Even the federal government itself has recently stated the RCMP should transition away from contract policing when current agreements expire in 2032. Ontario and Quebec have had provincial services for over 100 years. Why not Alberta? So, what are the benefits of Alberta withdrawing from the federal policing contract and creating our own provincial police service to provide community policing? 1, more local, more accountable. An Alberta police service would be run by and for Albertans, accountable to our province and not to the federal government in Ottawa. Police officers and support staff could build long-term careers in the Alberta communities they know and love. And any current RCMP officers and support staff working in Alberta would be invited to join a new Alberta police service. 2, safer rural communities. With local recruitment and stable placements, rural response times would improve considerably from where they are now, and coverage would become more reliable and tailored to each municipality and region. This is especially important in underserved rural Alberta communities. 3, flexible, made-in-Alberta solution. Most Albertans already have local police services. The province would assist larger communities like Red Deer, Fort McMurray, and Airdrie to transition to their own police services, while smaller, rural communities would be policed by the new provincial police service. And of course, nothing would change for Edmonton, Calgary, and other communities that already have municipal police services in place. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1, startup costs. Establishing a new police service requires significant initial investment. Hiring officers, buying equipment, building training infrastructure, and training personnel. Ultimately, the startup costs could reach into the hundreds of millions over several years. 2, loss of some federal operational funding. The federal government currently covers 30% of RCMP contract policing costs. It is therefore likely that there will be additional ongoing operational costs for the province. However, municipalities would not be saddled with those costs. So, should Alberta create an Alberta police service to take over community policing from the RCMP?
Okay, let's try over here first. 45 seconds on an Alberta police force.
Okay, first of all, the CPP gets a 10% return versus AMCO's 7% return average over the past decade. Secondly, the RCMP, the feds provide $170 million a year for our RCMP, which we would lose, but we'd still be paying those taxes. Secondly,
It's okay.
The Alberta pension plan,
Take your time. Take your
the
time.
policing municipalities have already said no, they do not want it.
Okay.
This does not need to be revisited. And poverty,
The homeless population in Edmonton since 2023 has jumped from just under 3,000 to close to 5,000 people in 2 years because of this UCP government refusing to fund municipalities properly. You promised you build a hospital in South Edmonton. Where is it?
Thank you. Okay, we did 45 seconds. That's it. You're done. So the thing is, like, I really tried. Like, I really tried there. We're going to clarify some of those things, but I think we want to get to some more people. So let's go over here.
Hello, my name is Kathy, and I have lived in Alberta my whole life. I used to be really proud of being Albertan. I am less proud since the UCP took over. I am still incredibly proud to be Canadian. Regarding the RCMP, this propaganda, I have traveled to Cuba and Vietnam. This propaganda puts any of their government propaganda to shame. It is disgusting. We do not need an Alberta police force. We would be much better to focus our attention on any of the issues we have with the RCMP and do that. Not one of your infomercials has ever talked about the training that Alberta police force would get and how that would be a far cry from the training that RCMP get at Depot, and putting guns in the hands of untrained people would be the most dangerous thing you could do to Albertans.
I don't think anybody would do that. Hey, can I call on MLA Glenn Van Dyken? So, Glenn, you're a rural MLA. You've got some issues with rural crime and all the rest of it. Where do you come at this one from?
I think the way I come at this is understanding that the federal committee has recommended to the federal government to step away from contract policing at the conclusion in 2032. And it would be irresponsible for the government of Alberta to not be prepared if that was to happen. We have about we have about 20% of the population is policed by RCMP. The vast majority of residents in the province of Alberta have local police force: Edmonton Police, Calgary Police, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Grand Prairie. They're all
Camrose,
local police. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think for rural Alberta, the biggest concern would be if we were left high and dry come 2032.
Hey, let's. Can I ask Stephen Buffalo? You might have an interesting take on this. I know some of your nations do this differently. Can you add some context?
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. Definitely, you're seeing some of the First Nations in Alberta really partake in this opportunity to police themselves. I know the Blood Tribe, the biggest reserve in Canada, has their own force. You know, the Tsuut'ina Nation right beside the city of Calgary has their own force. And the Siksika Nation currently now has some sort of work program that they're moving towards having their own force. You know, obviously there's issues to bring forward and some technical issues to deal with, but it's definitely something we have to look at. And it's not up to the province as a whole. It'll be up to the nation to make that decision. But going forward, you know, that's one thing I think, area that it's worth looking into. But it's going to take some time. So
thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. My name is Maria Bracho. I am an old immigrant from a socialist communist country. 41 years ago, I came to Alberta. It was in a big disarray. Everybody did like us because we are coming into a broken Alberta. 1984, it was really not good. It was the last few months of Pierre Trudeau. Yeah. And everyone was disappointed. He destroyed Alberta at that time.
Yep. Go ahead.
As a new immigrants, which we hardly barely speak English, we had to learn and ask different questions. So today, for the last 10 years, I could say I felt very, very sad for what is happening in Alberta. And then it's not Alberta's fault. It's to do with the system and the government from Ottawa, which was...
That's right. Okay. Ma'am, I don't want to cut you off, but, like, get to the question.
The question is...
Yes.
Mrs. Danielle Smith, please don't quit on us and keep going with everything you do. I love you. I love you.
Bruce, if I could just interject for a moment. Most Albertans don't realize that we had our own Alberta police force back in 1917 when Ottawa just abruptly removed the RCMP. So the province was forced on short notice to establish the Alberta Provincial Police Force, which then was in operation for 15 years, and it was a very well-respected force. Unfortunately, in 1932, the province was completely broke. They had to disband the police, and then Ottawa allowed the sent the RCMP back. But Alberta's not broke now, and we have had the precedent of the Alberta Provincial Police for 15 years.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, let's get to some more folks over here.
Yes, well, I want to thank Premier Smith and all of the panel because I really appreciate that we have this opportunity to talk and to say something. In regards to the police, I am 100% behind a provincial police force. We've seen during COVID lockdowns what happened at the borders, innocent people. And I think that we don't need, innocent people were put in jail at the border. Yes. And anyways, what I'm saying is I'm glad that that you're looking at this. Mm-hmm. I have an experience, and it is more local. Okay. And anyways, all I want to ask is if I could have a few minutes with you after this, because there's a lot of technologies being used by the Edmonton Police on citizens. And I would like to know if I could show you that.
Thank you. I'll tell you what we can do is I know that the Chief of Staff for the Minister of Emergency Services, Public Safety and Emergency Services is here tonight. I don't know where he is because it's bright. But Justin, find that lady and hear what she wants to bring to your attention. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sandra Azokarna. I just wanted to make a comment before I ask my question on the police service. Every single poll that has been done, independent poll on the pension plan, has indicated that Albertans repeatedly have said no to pulling out of the Canada pension pool. So I don't know how much more you need to hear from Albertans, but we have all said no. My question is very simple. On the police service. The MLA mentioned that we need to be ready for 2032. I'm wondering if, considering the past behavior that we have seen from this government, are we going to be ready to transition without impacting trust that Albertans have to have in their police force to be able to feel safe in their communities?
Okay, thank you.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're taking steps now to recognize the well-trained force we already have within our Alberta sheriffs. We have a number of people who came to sheriffs from various other police forces. So we have now created a commission structure, hired a chief, so that we've got proper independent oversight. And the next step is to have about 650 of those officers affirmed as police, and then do the continuous training to get more up to speed. I think our sheriff's complement is over 2,000 because they also do courts and they do prisoner transfer. But we have been building out specialty units for sheriffs for some time. They operate scan teams, so they shut down drug houses, they do surveillance, they do our fugitive apprehension. We've been very successful in being able to apprehend bad guys out on warrants. They also do executive protection, and they were the core of our border security when we launched a border security team. So I would say that, yes, we are developing. And when you look at where the RCMP, but just understand the scope. We pay for, our contract is to have 1,911 RCMP officers. We have about 1,400, so we're always short about 20 to 30%. And our sheriffs, when we affirm the police, they'll be at 650 right away. So by 2032, as we continue to scale up, then we'll ultimately have more police-trained sheriffs than we do have RCMP. So I would say the answer to the question, would we be ready by 2032 with proper oversight? The answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you, Premier. I'm already getting close to wrap time here, so let's do a couple of more. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Premier Smith, panelists, thank you for being here tonight. My comment is a more general one, whether it's CPP, whether it's policing, whether it's collecting our own tax revenue. I'm not one of these people that likes to waste government money, taxpayers' money, but when you start duplicating services, sometimes that happens, and so the cost of some of this stuff is a little bit unknown. My second point is that at this particular point in time, I would hope that going forward that we would all also have a respectful dialogue with the federal government. And the reason why is that I don't believe that my sovereignty in this province is hinged in 2025 right now on Ottawa. It's hinged on that guy in Washington. And we need all of Canada, including Albertans, to be together to deal with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go over to this side. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, my name is Lori, and I'm a Canadian first. I grew up in multiple provinces, made most of my contributions to CPP living outside of Alberta. But I want to thank you for taking this opportunity to give us a chance to speak, provide some feedback. But mine is that I really hope you'll listen to what people are saying, and that's not my impression. I agree with some of the people that the material being presented is not truthful, it's not unbiased. And Premier Smith, I would like you to represent Alberta in a collaborative way with Ottawa so that my CPP is protected. Last year and the year before, a report was done where you sought input from Albertans, and the vast majority wanted to stay with CPP. So I would appreciate the money being spent to provide ACE recipients with the money, to provide me with my COVID shot without having to spend my pension dollars. So, thank you.
It's almost time for the straw poll on this one. I just want to look down at the panel. Did I miss anybody that had a burning desire to get in on this one? Because our goal is also that you hear from everybody here at least once tonight, and I do try to do my best to do that. Is there anybody else that wanted in on this one? Dr. Aiken?
Sorry. I think the challenge, when we have a conversation is this: we want light, not heat. We want to be able to get to what do we need to do as a province. I had a conversation with a patient of mine who's ex-military, and he's like, look, I'm looking for a job. I'd like to work in the police force. I'm acting as a bouncer for a restaurant now. And there are young people here that want to serve in our police force. I want a police force that is local, responsible, accountable to the people here in Alberta, not to Ottawa. And I think...
Okay, well, let's get a straw poll. Let's see where you're at tonight. Should Alberta create an Alberta Police Service to take over community policing from the RCMP? Who says yes? And who says no? And who says maybe? Because I'm not sure every hand went up there. Okay, well, great. Good discussion. That's why we're here. The next video, we're going to talk about constitutional changes.
Our next topic is Alberta taking a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution to empower and better protect provincial rights. The Canadian Constitution, including its Charter of Rights of Freedoms and sections on the division of powers between the federal and provincial governments, is foundational to our democracy. The enforcement of the Constitution by governments and the courts ensures our rights and freedoms are protected, and that our provincial and federal governments generally function as they should. But no document is perfect. Some things that made sense 150 years ago may no longer make sense today. That is why the Constitution contains an amending formula that permits the Constitution to be altered should enough provinces and the federal government agree to it. Over the last decades, several outdated and unfair problems with the Constitution have been identified, but no tangible progress has been made to fix them, due primarily to a lack of federal and provincial leadership. Examples of proposed constitutional reforms include the following. 1. amending the division of powers to indicate that core areas of provincial jurisdiction, including over natural resources and health, are immune from federal legislation, and to also ensure that in shared areas of jurisdiction, such as agriculture and immigration, provincial laws prevail over federal ones. 2. Imposing constitutional limits on the federal spending power in areas of provincial jurisdiction, including a provincial right to opt out of federal spending measures with proper compensation should they so choose. 3. Adhering strictly to representation by population in the House of Commons. Right now, those living in smaller provinces are greatly overrepresented when compared to those living in larger ones. 4. Either abolishing the Senate entirely or having it actually represent provincial interests as originally intended by mandating an elected Senate with the same amount of senators representing each province. 5. Allowing provinces to appoint their own King's Bench and Court of Appeal justices, rather than having those appointments made by the federal government. 6. Expanding the Supreme Court to allow for more justices from Western Canada and making prior service on a province's Court of Appeal a mandatory requirement of becoming a Supreme Court justice. 7. Eliminating the Ottawa residency requirement for judges on federal courts to ensure more Western Canadian representation. And 8. Mandating provincial approval of the appointment of a lieutenant governor to a province by the federal government. There are, of course, many other potential constitutional amendments that are worth discussion, but this is a start. So, should Alberta take a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution in order to empower and better protect provincial rights? And if so, which of the amendments discussed or other proposals should the Alberta government advocate for?
I guess it's tough when you're in the line to sit down and come up when your topic comes because you don't want to give up your spot in the line, and I totally get that. But I'd like to stay on topic when we talk about this one. So where did I finish off? I can't remember. Go ahead. Start us off.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. I first like to start off with a comment before my question. Everybody talks about do this for the kids, do this for the future generation. And I was a kid when the firewall letter was addressed to former Premier Ralph Klein, and it addressed all of the similar topics we were talking about today. And I don't know how much progress we made. It doesn't look like there was that much progress. There's been a lot of talk, not so much action. So I implore everybody to learn from the APP, which is the Alberta Prosperity Project, and take back our independence for the children. So my question is to anybody on the panelists, public or private, how do you think we progressed since 2001 when that letter addressed, and if anybody has a burning comment they want to share?
That's a fair question. Premier, you've spoke to this before. I don't know if do you want to take it on? Or
well, you know, I think I'm a lot older than you, but I remember that letter very well, and it's something that it's part of the reason why I've been watching with great interest the Fair Deal panel and some of the public advocacy that has gone on, because these are issues that have been talked about for 20 years. We have to decide, are we going to drop them, or are we going to go to a referendum on them and move forward on them? And that's what we're trying to gauge through these town halls.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Nancy, and I don't think that the province should have more authority over spending in areas like health, education, and environmental protection. It should have less. We need to have checks and balances in place so that the provincial government can't make wholesale changes like they have already done that would cause irreparable damage to Albertans. We're supposed to be guaranteed universal health care, but this government is eroding that. We have private surgical clinics with no waiting as long as you can pay the bill. In addition to that, I do not support an Alberta pension plan. The Canada Pension Plan is envied around the world, and the CPP funds are invested at arm's length. Why does the UCP want to put my retirement funds at risk?
Thank you.
When I'm asking a question.
Yes.
When provincially run fiscal tools like AIMCO and the Heritage Trust Fund have shown major losses over the past 15 years because of bad investments and spending on right-wing government pet projects.
Thank you. It's almost like that one was prepared for the evening. Let's go over here. Yeah, we can We can go over here.
In the constitutional changes video, healthcare was a focus for aspects that the Alberta government should have more sovereignty over. In 2022, you, Danielle Smith, said, does a regular checkup for your doctor really have to be something that is covered 100% by government? This time last summer, I was diagnosed with a rare and aggressive kind of cancer known as soft tissue sarcoma in my neck. Aside from the surgery and the subsequent radiation treatment, a checkup with my family doctor was the very first step in my survival. Checkups are not just some superfluous treatment methods that are overshadowed by surgeries and more invasive procedures. They are absolutely critical. And the more barriers you put between people and their doctor, the more people will die. So my question... So my question for this administration is this. Why do you believe that you know better than every healthcare expert in this province and this country? Why do you think we should have to fight tooth and nail for our right to healthcare?
Thank you. Thank you. I literally never heard anybody say that they thought that. But I will tell you this. You look to have recovered well. Voice is going great. Happy and proud of you. Good for you. Super. Got it. You got it. You might... Go ahead.
Well, Bruce.
On constitutional changes. Go ahead.
Bruce.
Hey there.
Bruce.
Time's going.
Bruce.
Okay. Alberta workers are being screwed over. So.
Hang on.
Hey, I got my
Can we
time.
just
Hang on. We'll start. We'll restart the clock. Premier, you wanted to say something.
I don't want people yelling about healthcare and saying I'm not answering. When I got elected as leader in February of 2023, I signed an agreement with the federal government for a long-term 10-year funding agreement, which committed to the principles of the Canada Health Act, which says no one can pay out of pocket for medically necessary care, which means doctor's visits and surgical visits. So we have a 10-year agreement that is ironclad with the federal government. That's what I've signed on to, and that is what we have committed to. The COVID shots were delisted. They were defunded by the federal government. They were defunded by the federal government.
Okay.
The federal government was paying for them for the last 3 years, and they defunded them. And so we had to make a choice about how to best provide those services to those who need them the most without wasting $234 million, which is the equivalent value of the amount of COVID shots that were thrown away over the past 3 years. It's not bullshit. It's true. It's absolutely true. We have made RSV shots available to those who need them. Others have to pay out of pocket $300. Shingles shots are paid out of pocket. Yellow fever shots are paid out of pocket. There are lots of different types of vaccines that are paid for out of pocket. We've got the right balance. Now that we have to pay for it because the federal government defunded it, contact the federal government. If they wanted to continue funding it, then they wouldn't have saddled us with an additional $134 million. So that's one of the things that we're adjusting to. I will also say 87% of Albertans chose not to get the COVID shot last year.
Okay. I'm just gonna ask for a collective inhale and exhale. Okay. The topic was constitutional changes, and I don't think that's what we're talking about anymore. So let's do our best. And this guy yelling, knock it off or I'll ask you to leave. Especially your language. Okay? Just knock it off or I'll ask somebody to get you out of here. Jesus, you don't reward a toddler in the grocery store and give them what they want. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Working class people in Alberta are being screwed. It is the work that we do, the labor that we do, that creates all the wealth in society, that makes society possible. And we should be the ones running it. But that is not the system we have, a federal, provincial, any kind of level like that. What we have is governments for the bankers, for the landlords, for the insurance industry, for the oil barons whose goldfish brain lackeys sit here before you. If you want prosperity for ordinary people in Alberta, we're going to have to fight for it. We're going to have to excise these parasites, working people.
X the mic. Here's the thing. You can Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, I mean, you can act like an ass and get your 30 seconds of fame, but then you'll just be asked to leave, and you're kind of wrecking it for everybody else that actually came here to speak to the Premier and the panel and hear a good discussion. Would you agree? Like, like honestly, like I think there's been people here that disagree entirely with the government tonight and have made very good points, very respectfully. Is that really that hard for adults to do? It shouldn't be. So let's start over here.
Hi, my name's Michelle, and I've been an Albertan since I was 6 years old. I've also had the privilege of being a civil servant in the provincial government for over 20 years of my working career. With that, I feel I have some insights. I don't have the statistics and facts and other things I care to throw out on each and every issue, but I would like to lend my voice to those that say these questions are not what we need to address right now. We need to address the values that I think are important to Albertans about how we care for one another, how we educate one another, how we take care of our health, how we provide equality in services to all, how we support those who are having trouble supporting themselves. These are the values I thought represented Alberta, and I don't see that.
Thank you. Thank you. I assure you the government spends a lot of time on those issues as well. But tonight, let's try and talk about the Alberta-Ottawa relationship and what you think and where we should go. Go ahead.
Hello. In short, yes, I do think that the government should pursue these constitutional changes. I did stand up to speak to the pension, and so I'd like to speak to that. One, I think the problem is because pension comes out automatically, most people do not understand what their lifetime contributions are versus what they're getting out. So it would be very helpful to have someone say, this is what the average person who retired in 2024 is getting, and go back to the age of 18 and say, this is what the average contribution is, to help us really understand that issue. Second, a superior pension would be every person into your named account with your money and your portion of it going to your dependents when you die.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Constitutional changes. Over here.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I just retired a couple days ago. So,
congratulations.
Yeah. But with respect to the Constitution, one of the things that was going through my mind is the fact that, you know what, Alberta was created arbitrarily by the Dominion of Canada. The boundaries of Alberta were established in 1905. Alberta didn't come along, it wasn't a separate country, it wasn't a separate province, it was actually in 1870, the amalgamation of Rupert Land and the Northwest Territories. Alberta was a section of that created by Parliament. Now, what's my point? My point is that arbitrarily Alberta inherited mineral wealth in the form of petroleum. Yeah. It was a quirk of fate, you might say. So, you know what? My family, I have grandfather born in Minburn, ranched. They used to run a rodeo there. My great uncle, my grandfather was a family doctor down in Drumheller. I've been in Alberta 38 years, so my point is I'm an Albertan. But you know what? First and foremost, I consider myself a Canadian.
Okay. Thank you.
A Canadian. No, I'm not Canadian.
But you're 2 minutes in, man. Get to your point.
Okay, sorry. A point. Okay, just a couple
Not points. A couple. What's the point?
That's the point. The point is that with respect to the Constitution, we have to look at the history and the legal framework within, and finally, last point, the Aboriginal people.
Thank you. Bruce, you know history and the Constitution, these kinds of things. This gentleman is making some good points, just taking a long time to get there. Do you want to add to that?
You're quite correct, of course. Alberta and Saskatchewan were created at the same time in 1905. There's a little bit of a history there. But the fact is they're now equal with every other province. I mean, there's no first and second class provinces depending on your historical origins, all right? That's the main point I want to make. Secondly, with respect to us being so lucky with our oil and gas reserves. I would point out that I think that overlooks the competent way that they have been managed by the government and the skilled people in the sector that have developed it. I would point out that Venezuela has far more in the way of oil reserves than we do, and look at the mess they're in. So let's give ourselves some credit.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I've got like a 2-minute call again. Let's get to a couple. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just have to be general here because you've gone way past my topic. I would like to say, as others have, I am a proud Canadian. I was a proud Albertan. I do not like what this government is doing.
Okay. Thank you.
I find them to be very divisive and separatist. And why can't they just carry on and have a relationship with the federal government instead of complaining about everything they do? It's always the feds' problem. I don't need the rest of my time. That's it.
Thank you.
Can I just respond to that, please?
Yes. You know, sure, Bruce.
There was an act called the Impact Assessment Act, and this province referred it to the courts for an opinion as to whether it was constitutional or not. Our Court of Appeal ruled it was unconstitutional, or gave the opinion it was unconstitutional. That was upheld 5-2 by the Supreme Court of Canada, and rather than respecting the opinions of the Supreme Court of Canada, the federal government basically made a couple of minor changes that affected nothing, and that act is still on the books, and it's still a detriment not only to Alberta, but to most provinces that want to develop their resources. So to say that Ottawa wants a good relationship with the provinces, I think I'd be a little skeptical on that, because if they wanted it, they would follow the opinion of the Supreme Court of Canada and abolish that act.
Okay. Let's give the last word to this person at the microphone over here.
Sorry. My name is Catherine. I'm from Edmonton. Alberta is upset about equal representation in Ottawa, but why can't we start by setting the example at home? Equal representation is when my vote in Edmonton South is just as powerful as a vote in Lesser Slave Lake. MLAs are not distributed evenly across the province, just like they are not distributed evenly across Canada. However, rural Alberta does have special interests which have to be considered, just like other provinces may have special interests that also have to be considered. I know I have the opinion that one person's vote should never be worth more than someone else's. Right. But I also know that I don't know the needs of someone in rural Alberta any more than I do in someone in Atlantic Canada. But I do know that they are all part of my community, so I do care.
Yes.
And I also care that when the logic we're applying to this, we also will apply the same logic when the commission comes out sometime in the next few.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So I was thinking as this lady was asking or making her point, we do have a Capital Region MLA here, Brandon Lunty, and you know, I hear an awful lot from him and others in our caucus about the importance of this region and area. Brandon, do you want to speak? Do you want to speak to it at all?
Sure. Thanks, Bruce.
Just hang on one second. Honestly, like, just please, it's not that hard. Like, God Almighty. Go ahead, Brandon.
Right. Well, sticking to the constitutional changes question, we've heard a lot of good conversation on that and on some other topics. But full disclosure, I was 10 years old when Charlottetown Accord was voted on, so don't have all the expertise. I know there'd be some challenges when you look at these constitutional changes. We noted in the video there could be a lot of other issues. But I want to touch on two really quick, which is respecting the way the Constitution is currently written and making sure that we respect the provincial provisions in those is really important. The judge brought up an excellent example with court cases where Alberta needs the federal government to respect what's in the Constitution. We also need to look at some of the parts parts that are in there, including the federal spending power, which if that was respected, and so we did have an opt-out option, it would make us much more balanced and much more whole fiscally when it came to all these issues. So those are two examples that we could really look at that would really help Alberta and make sure that it's a lot more fair playing field.
Thank you, Brennan. Should we do the straw poll? We should do the straw poll. Okay. Should Alberta take a lead role in working with other provinces to pressure the federal government to amend the Canadian Constitution to empower and better protect provincial rights? Yes. Who says yes? Okay. Who says no? And the yeas have it. Thank you. And again, thank you to the great majority of you who are here for the right reasons. Let's go to immigration reform.
Our next topic is Alberta taking more control of the immigration system to counter Ottawa's open border policies, which are driving up the cost of living and are not aligned with the needs of Alberta's economy. In just over 100 years, Alberta's population has grown from a few 100,000 farmers, ranchers, and First Nations peoples to a province of over 5 million, with one of the most prosperous economies in the world. This great success story would not have been possible without new Albertans moving here from all over the world. That is why Alberta has always welcomed newcomers looking to contribute to our province's economic success and unique culture. And we always will. However, as all Canadians intuitively understand, the number of newcomers entering the country each year needs to be sustainable, and everyone wanting to come should be committed to upholding the Canadian values of hard work, love of freedom, and peaceful coexistence. Sadly, Justin Trudeau's Liberals upended Canada's immigration system for over a decade by instituting an open borders policy that permitted millions to enter Canada each year, often without any sort of proper vetting, job prospects, or needed employment skills. The results have been disastrous. Housing prices have skyrocketed. Unemployment keeps increasing as immigration outpaces job growth. And sadly, many of the divisions and disputes that plague other countries have begun making their way into ours. Further, Ottawa has ignored the request of Alberta to cut refugee claimants and student visas, and instead permit Alberta, like Quebec, to select a more sustainable and targeted number of economic migrants better able to contribute to our province's economy. What can Alberta do about the situation? Quite a bit, actually. You see, under the Constitution, immigration is a shared area of responsibility between the federal and provincial governments, which makes sense. Essentially, the federal government gets to decide who they let into Canada, but it's up to the provinces to provide the vast majority of the social programs that newcomers need. So obviously, we should have a say about who is coming here. If Alberta isn't satisfied with the number or economic qualifications of newcomers moving to our province, we may have the option to withhold provincial social programs to any non-citizen or non-permanent resident who does not have an Alberta-approved immigration status. This would likely encourage more sustainable numbers of immigration overall, while supporting the entry of newcomers that can contribute to our provincial economy. If Alberta went this direction, Ottawa could decide to fight Alberta on this issue in the courts, and there would be some additional costs in taking a more hands-on approach to immigration. However, much, if not all of that cost, could be offset in corresponding savings to our social programs. So, should Alberta take more control of the immigration system in this way, or continue with the status quo? And how can our province convince Ottawa to act more responsibly with their immigration policies in the future?
I felt like hiding under there for a minute ago. Okay, so on immigration reform, and we've got a couple of first immigrant families on our panel, so they'll have some interesting perspective as to how things are today and what they were like when they arrived in Canada. We'll get some of that, but I'd also like to hear from you, of course, as many as possible. So over here first. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Can somebody ask that lady to leave, please? Can we go over here? While that lady goes, look, it's grab a headline, put me on TV. Can we just start over here?
Thank you. The nice people behind me let me jump with my question on constitutional spending. These federal transfers ensure minimum standards across Canada, including, for example, the universal single payer that was mentioned by the Premier of the Canada Health Act and that 10-year long-term commitment. If Alberta advocates for these sort of changes that you're proposing, where we can take opt out of federal spending but not have to worry about any of these minimum standards that are set, what protections are there for things like the universal single payer in the Canada Health Act, or universal childcare, or, for example, the Canada Disability Benefit, which Alberta is the only province to be clawing back from these individuals? Why would we opt out of these minimum standards?
So normally Premier, I'm going to let you answer that, but I just want to say I know it's frustrating because you get in the line and then you don't get to ask your question. So some are going back to old topics. We're just going to try to allow this. And what do they say? Over prepare and go with the damn flow. So, Premier, can you answer that one?
Well, I guess the way I look at it is that we are served very well by having a single payer system in Alberta. One of the things that I've observed in traveling around the world is some of the complications that come from having multiple different insurers. Nobody's asking for that. What we're wanting to do is to have more private sector delivery of publicly funded services. I know that those who are criticizing us want to try to blur the lines on that, but the reason you do that is because when you pay a charter surgical center, whether they're providing for women's reproductive health, as we have been providing under multiple different governments, whether they're providing eye care, whether they are providing knee and hip replacements, when they are being paid for the services they provide, they end up doing more of them. So we've seen a 50% increase in the number of surgeries at charter surgical centers, and we have not seen an increase in the number of surgeries done in public hospitals. So this is what we're experimenting with, is being able to provide, and this is the fight we're having with the federal government right now over childcare, because we have 70% of our childcare is provided by often immigrant women, but they're women entrepreneurs, and the federal government wants to stamp that sector out. They want them to all be nonprofit and public. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to do it differently, because we think we'll get better service by having a mixed system of public pay with private delivery. So that's just one of the differences, and it's what makes Alberta unique.
That's it. That's it. Okay, on immigration.
Thank you. Quebec is able to decide the level of immigrants that they are able to take in.
Yes.
And Alberta and the rest of the provinces are not. There is a current act right now on the law that you, Ms. Smith, has decided to pursue a few years ago to take back some control. So right now, as you talk about taking back more control, why are you not willing to bring that law, the Sovereignty Act, within a united Canada and enact that to pursue the changes of immigration you would like to pursue today?
It seems like a fair question.
Well, I had hoped that we'd be able to, through negotiation, be able to get the federal government to see our point of view. When we first came in, we were allowed to nominate 6,700 provincial nominees. We managed to, for 1 year, increase that to 10,000, and then they unilaterally cut it in half last year. And so that's part of the reason why we're having this consultation now, because if you read Section 95 of the Constitution, it reads that the provinces have the right to determine not only agriculture policy, but immigration policy, and that the feds can make laws in those areas from time to time. We've got it flipped on its head. They control everything and we can control nothing. So that's part of the reason we're doing the consultation, is to see if Albertans want us to exert our rights there and be a lot more like Quebec.
Thank you. So, question, Sumita, who is the chair of the Premier's Council on Multiculturalism. When you came to Canada, what were things like? How have they changed? And what do you recommend on an immigration subject?
Thank you. I'll try to keep this as short as possible within the 45 seconds, but it's an important topic we all need to think about, a different perspective from the first generation immigrant. We're touching on a deep and urgent concern many Albertans are beginning to express, one that's rooted in love for the province, a desire to protect its future, and a sense of fairness for everyone who calls Alberta home. Where do we go from here when Alberta becomes unaffordable? is the question. Alberta has long been a place of opportunity, a province where me and my family made our home. We found affordable housing, stable jobs, and a chance to build a better life. That promise has drawn thousands from across Canada. But now the very foundation that made Alberta attractive is under pressure. In 2024 alone, 44,000 families moved to Alberta from other provinces. People are coming because Alberta is still one of the few affordable provinces left. But the question is, what happens when Alberta too becomes unaffordable? BC and Ontario once had Alberta to turn to. Where will Albertans go if the same pressure push families out? This conversation, sorry Bruce, just a few more seconds. This conversation isn't about blaming newcomers. Interprovincial migrants and immigrants alike contribute to the fabric of Alberta. But welcoming more people requires responsible planning.
That's it.
I'm asking reasonable check stops in place, not to close the door, but to ensure our housing, schools, healthcare, and job market can keep pace with rapid growth.
Yes.
We owe it to people already here and those who are arriving in future.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi there. My question to the panel is this. It is referring to the bring sovereignty to Alberta. So the question is this. How are we to achieve that Alberta's voice is going to be actually heard under constitutional law in Canada and under Confederation when the vast majority of the population and voice resides in Ontario and Quebec, and that we need to have 7 provinces in order to join us, in order to actually get the changes made to the referendum for sovereignty, but also the equalization payments when they get per capita. I don't know who the other lady was that was talking about. Yes, everybody pays their taxes.
Thank you.
But Alberta, that's it? Okay, well, I had a lot.
Well, I thought the queue was a little quick too, for what it's worth. But anyway, we're trying to do immigration now, and we've kind of jumped into a couple that I think we addressed earlier. But is there anything anybody wants to add on that, or can I go to the next speaker? Next speaker. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, thank you. I have a comment, and then I'd like to ask a question. For my comment, I think it's kind of disgusting that you guys are blaming immigrants directly in a video for the problem.
Get lost. Nobody did that. Nobody did that.
It did. It was in the video, and we all saw it.
Yeah.
So I think that's disgusting. The problem is private developers. We need more public housing that serves the people and not private interests.
Oh.
And then just for a question, I was going to direct it to our premier, but if the moderator has better opinions and he would like to continue speaking,
go for it, man.
That's okay
Go
with me
for
too.
It. Go for it.
Is our premier and the moderator willing to publicly denounce the fascist policies of our southern neighbor that are oppressing people and ruining lives? Can you do that?
Wow. Wow. I don't know. Go ahead.
I have a question for the panel in reference to the constitutional slide.
Sorry, can't quite hear you. Just speak into the mic.
Sorry, I have a question for the panel that is referencing the constitutional questions before, but I believe it covers almost everything here. Why are we not placing more focus on a Triple E Senate instead of it being a footnote? That's it. No grandstanding, no soliloquies, no nothing of that.
Well, it's not immigration, but I don't know. Anybody?
Well, I think we're at a point now where maybe we should have a conversation about abolishing the Senate. I mean, we've tried to, my personal view, I can tell you, I was having a conversation with one of our fellow premiers, Nova Scotia, they have 10 senators, and we only have 6. They have 1 million population, and we have 5. And I said, don't you think that's unfair? And he said, oh, I didn't notice because I don't have any relationship really with the Senate. It doesn't really matter to me. And so that is a complete reversal on what the role of the Senate was supposed to be. It was supposed to represent regional interests. It was not supposed to be biased, having unfair allocation so that you could just force through legislation at the federal level without any oversight. So this is part of the reason we're having this conversation. Do we bang our heads against the wall and try to get the same? I don't know now. Could we ever have a system now that we've had 24 seats going to Quebec where we would also give 24 seats to PEI? Because to Bruce's point, there is no second tier of provinces. We're all the same tier. So if we're going to have equal representation, is it even possible that we would give the same allocation to Quebec and PEI? Or we don't have provincial senates anymore. We used to at some point. Maybe it's the premiers who are supposed to be the counterbalance on the federal government, not the Senate. So that would be my observation.
Okay. I just think we're using some of the last half hour we'd allotted for open time on some of these discussions, and that's fine. Dr. Zhu, what year did you come to Canada with your family? What brought you here? What are your observations on immigration now and how it's changed in a minute or so?
Well, thank you, Bruce. Here's my story. So I came to Canada in 33 years ago. So my father did a lot of research, and he decided to bring me here for a better future. And back then, acupuncture was pretty much unknown. And 33 years later, look at it today, it's registered, it's legislated, and we have a Health Professions Act, and acupuncture is very much respected under lots of insurance companies as well. So back then, actually, immigration was two-way street. You know, Canada helps immigrants like me and my family to settle in, and we took the chance, opportunities, we try to contribute. And still today, I'm still trying to contribute as much as I can. I really appreciate the opportunity, you know, Canada gave to our family. But just recently, you know, over the last 10 or so Liberal government, I think immigration becoming a one-way street. It's more of Albertans contributing, Canadians contributing, and unwillingly, really. So the talents and the needs, I just don't see they're matching. We're not getting what we want. I think we should have a healthy discussion on immigration.
Fair.
Just like the region.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Zhu. And that was pretty close to a minute, maybe a couple minutes.
Can I just maybe give some historic information here? The professor's been digging it up, just so that we understand how different the last couple of years have been from historic.
Sure.
So between 2009 and 2019, and remember we had different banners of governments under that period of time, historic international inflow was 0.6% of the population. So with 42 million people, that would be about 252,000. Last year it was 1.8 million. So you can see something has gone a little askew in our historic practices. And that's what we're talking about, is that level, if historically we were able to absorb 252,000 a year, can we absorb all of a sudden 1.8 million a year? And that is the question that we're having.
That's important data. Go ahead, sir.
Hey there, my name is Jared. I'm speaking on sovereignty, but I think that pertains to all the topics that we're here about. I just want to know, why are we talking about separatist ideas when we're in an active trade war with the United States? We should be unifying with our fellow countrymen from the Maritimes to Vancouver Island, and instead we're bickering and acting like children and that we deserve better. I know this government is busy. I understand governance is a hard job. You have trans kids to bully. You got people with disabilities to claw money back from.
Okay, shut the mic off.
But I want to ask, why are you choosing treason as opposed to helping other Canadians against this time?
Come on, like, if you want a response, you know, ask a question, make your point. Don't be a jerk. Like, seriously, go ahead. Let's go ahead over here, okay?
So my question is should we should we expect immigrants to pay insurance for their health care? I do not believe this is unreasonable. If I was to move to a different country, I'm responsible for taking care of my own health care. It is very true that those extensive numbers put extreme stress on our health care, on our education, on all of our public services. I think it is okay. Premier Smith, I still have 15 seconds left. I just want to ask you one quick thing about taxes and transparency. A lot of tax waste in the federal government. I just heard this week that we have removed the transparency on the internet for our Alberta government for over $100. Could you please be responsible to taxpayers or explain why?
I can't because I'm confused by that too. So we're going to be discussing that memo when we go to Cabinet on Tuesday. The issue that Cabinet discussed was that there are a number of my ministers who go to the same hotels when they're frequenting different municipalities, and they just wanted the name of the hotel redacted, just in case people were tracking them down and following. That was what the policy was supposed to be. It turned out to be something quite different. So we're going to see if we can maybe try to track down how that happened and do a reversal on that.
Excellent. Thank you. Good question. Fair answer. Okay, so we got a question. Should Alberta take more control of the immigration system to counter Ottawa's open border policies? Who says yes? Who says no? The ayes have it. Okay. The next video we'd like to present to then discuss, if you're in the line, just reminding you, the topic will be the provincial tax collection.
Our next topic is the option of Alberta collecting all provincial personal income taxes, rather than having Ottawa do it for us. Today, when Albertans file and pay their personal income taxes, they do so through the Canada Revenue Agency, which then remits the provincial portion of those personal income taxes back to the provincial government. However, Alberta businesses file and pay their provincial corporate taxes directly to the provincial government. Quebec does it differently. They collect both personal and corporate income taxes directly from Quebecers, bypassing the CRA altogether. What if Alberta did the same? There would definitely be startup and ongoing administration costs, but it would also mean bringing good-paying jobs to Alberta instead of funding federal employees in other parts of the country. Under Canada's Constitution, levying and collecting taxes is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and Alberta could transition over the coming years to collecting our personal income taxes, as we do with corporate taxes now. So what are some of the benefits to Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes? 1, better provincial tax policy. Currently, Alberta sets its own tax rates and credits, but definitions and treatments of income are still largely tied to federal rules, which limits our flexibility to implement more effective and competitive tax policy. We saw this recently when the federal government changed the rules on capital gains for doctors and other professionals, and Alberta was effectively forced to follow those same rules as it related to provincial personal income taxes. If Alberta were to collect its own taxes, we could tailor our entire tax framework to better reflect our economic realities and provincial policy goals, while declining federal changes to certain portions of tax policies that detrimentally affect provincial income tax policy. This could open the door to streamlining calculations and simplifying provincial income taxes for Alberta residents. 2, jobs and economic opportunity at home. Collecting our own taxes would also mean establishing the infrastructure and staffing to support it, creating thousands of good, high-paying jobs right here in Alberta, instead of funding positions in Ottawa or other provinces. 3, more Alberta, less Ottawa. By moving away from the federal administration of the CRA and collecting provincial income taxes by ourselves, Alberta can exercise more direct control over a core aspect of self-government, thereby increasing our provincial independence from Ottawa. But there are also potential drawbacks to consider. 1, a long-term commitment. Establishing Alberta's own personal income tax collection agency would not happen overnight. Estimates suggest it could take up to 5 years to fully build out the necessary systems and staffing. This would be a major logistical undertaking that would require a sustained commitment from Albertans and their government. 2, significant financial investment. The estimated cost to implement Alberta's own tax agency ranges from $750 million to $1.5 billion over several years. Once operational, the system could cost up to $750 million annually and require hiring as many as 5,000 new public employees. These are substantial expenses that must be weighed against the benefits. 3, potential for added complexity. There are also practical implications for taxpayers and businesses. Albertans would need to file separate federal and provincial tax forms, although online filing would likely ease that burden. There may also be increased complexities for businesses and Albertans working in different provinces throughout the year. Now, tell us what you think about the idea of Alberta collecting its own personal income taxes.
Okay. This will be smooth as silk.
Thank you for this chance to speak. My question is about actually all of these questions. I've been told as an Albertan tonight several times that I don't care about these topics, but the truth is I don't understand them. And I think I speak for most Albertans. So would you guys, as a panel, as a provincial government, commit to a large-scale information campaign so that we do not have another Brexit experience in the world where people do more research after a referendum than before. These videos are fantastic. They seem fairly bipartisan. People have brains. They can figure that out for themselves. People have brains. They can do their own research. And that is a good starting point. Would you commit to putting those on YouTube as an ad, on TikTok, on Facebook, where people are looking, not just on a website where you have to search something up? You can't expect people to figure these things out on themselves because the wrong voices are sometimes heard.
I just say that's a great idea. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in politics is that there are individuals who are really highly engaged on policy issues. They're the folks who join political parties and who engage in sort of letters to the editor and are commenting on Facebook posts. And most people are really just living their lives. And so part of this process that we're going through is seeing what resonance there is for the ideas that people are talking about in those forums to see how much appetite there is among the general public. So that's part of the reason we're doing this, but good idea to try to get some ads going to direct people to the site. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Excellent. Over here, guys.
Hi, my name's Mark. I'm from Edmonton, originally from Ontario. My question was for the immigration, but to comment on this one, it does sound like a great idea on paper, but not sure fully about it. But to my immigration comments, I had put some words here together. Canada is built on immigration, but mass immigration today is not the same as when our parents and grandparents came here. Back then, they arrived with little more than a suitcase and a dream, and they worked hard to build and live without government subsidies, without endless taxpayer funding benefits. Today, our system is flooded not just with people seeking opportunity, but for the policies that give new arrivals immediate access to housing, healthcare, and welfare, and all paid for by Canadians who are already struggling with high taxes and cost of living crises.
Thanks, Mark.
This isn't sustainable.
Thank you.
Immigration.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm with you, but I can't play favorites. Thank you. It's great. It's a great comment. You're just out about a minute, right? Thank you for the points. Over here.
Hello again, it's Elder Taz. You know, I find it quite comical that immigrants don't want more immigrants. You know, had we put a stop to immigration as Indigenous people, not helped you guys survive in our land, you wouldn't be here. I think I really truly understand how the Jewish felt when Hitler started making his own laws. I'm deeply concerned, Danielle Smith, that you are overriding treaties, overriding Constitution, and not involving all Indigenous populations,
Thank
not just those you are paying.
Thank you. Okay. Over here.
You know, despite Alberta being the wealthiest province, Alberta has both the richest of rich and unfortunately the poorest of poor people in Canada. Albertans pay between 25 to 48% in taxes in total, so an average of 44% of your earnings goes to taxes. Yet we struggle with poverty and growing wealth disparities. It's clear that our current system isn't working. And to address this, I propose a two-part solution. Firstly, we should increase taxes in the upper tax brackets here in Alberta by 2%. And for those earning $177,923 a year and above, with additional tax brackets to ensure the wealthy contribute fairly. For instance, those earning $355,846 a year should be taxed at 20% rather than the current 15%, and added tax brackets reaching up to 23%. This would help redistribute wealth and fund essential public services.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's do this. Well, I would say this. There is a response to people that call for those tax increases, and some would say that you actually wind up taking in less when you make those increases. But let's ask somebody that might have the data to back that up. I don't know if I put Trevor on the spot, Premier, if you want to talk about that, or maybe both.
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in first to know what you're referring to as something that's typically called the Laffer curve. Like, what's the tax rate that maximizes government revenue? And that depends on how responsive people are to tax rates. As you raise tax rates, the tax base shrinks. And I'll refer to some estimates from my colleague, or now retired colleague, Bev Dalby at the University of Calgary, who estimates this for provinces. And, you know, combined with the federal top marginal tax rate, that top rate in Alberta is 48%, and that is perhaps right around that top of the Laffer curve. It might very well be that if you increase those rates higher, even if the goal is to raise revenue, you might not actually raise any revenue as a result. And in some provinces, they're actually far past the top, and they'd raise more with slight reductions.
MLA Glenn Van Dyken.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking me, Bruce, but at the end of the day, I guess we're talking about taxation.
Hey, well,
and one thing that I will say is that it would be helpful. Michael Binion is not here tonight, but I've learned a lot from him over the last month with regards to responsible self-government and how his work, while he's working in Quebec over the last 20 years, he's observed that a lot of Quebec's ability to put forward more self-government is by proving out self-government. And I'm in Alberta, and I believe in Albertans, and I believe in the ability of Albertans. And so a lot of the discussions we're having tonight are about, are we willing to become the responsible self-government that Quebec National Assembly is? And if we are, does that lead to increased autonomy within the government or within Canada? I think what we're discussing tonight is essentially taking authority over the areas that we are entitled to under the Constitution. And as some people think that's equating to separation, but taking control of the authorities that are already there within the Constitution, and tax collection is one of them.
Right.
This does not equate to separation. This equates to sovereignty within Canada.
You did pretty well for somebody who didn't know what I was asking you. He's the country gentleman I like to refer to him at. Over here.
We no longer have questions on this topic in this line.
Do you know what? Let's just do this. We'll whether it's this topic or the other 5 that we've had tonight, related to Ottawa, to Alberta Next, what you would like to see. Let's just do that as long as we can here, okay?
Hi, my question's addressed to Premier Smith. So one of the primary arguments that's been made about Alberta's separation or further sovereignty from Ottawa is that we would be able to develop as much oil as we wish, something that's been cited as an argument several times by the UCP government. However, If Alberta were to separate, BC and all other provinces would no longer have any incentive to work with us to build a pipeline. Not to mention that Canada owns the TMX extension. And so my question is, how would we realize any benefit if we have no option to export our product, and not to mention the investment scare that separating would have on the industry, something that Nancy Southern has mentioned several times. We've also seen this investment scare in Quebec in the 80s and 90s when they were dealing with a referendum question on separation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, those are all the reasons I support Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, over here.
Hi, my name is Isaac Cantine. I'm an Edmontonian, born and raised. I have a question for the Honourable Premier Smith. But first I want to preface that by saying that I'm like many people in the audience, probably have issues with our federal government. And I believe that all Albertans deserve transparency on where our tax dollars go. And this should be universal for any reallocation of tax revenue, federally or provincially. Someone has already raised the concern that the requirement for officials to publicly disclose receipts over $100 was removed. I hope that is reversed. But in the wake of that, there are some issues with that. This is maybe less red tape for the government. It is more red tape for an Albertan seeking information on this. After a string of public expenses that Albertans did not sign off on, $250,000 on a new rug in the legislature, raising MLA salaries, well, Albertan salaries stagnate, $80 million on children's Tylenol that didn't work and wasn't used.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, excellent. So the question actually, if you wanted me to read it aloud, are there any other ideas you have on what we might do, on how we can strengthen Alberta's sovereignty within a united Canada? So pose that to you, and again, the last topic you can address as well.
Okay, hi, how you doing? I'm a 45-year pipeliner and originally born and raised in Ottawa. My father was the director of finance for the federal government. He warned me when I left home, he said, save, save, save your money. Because you know what? He says that Canada pension plan will probably not be there for you. That was from the director of finance, and he's the most honest man I ever known in my life. Okay, so anyways, his name was Robert Bonner. You can check it out. In the 70s, he was the director. Okay. Anyways, going on, and to prove about why we're at risk with the Canada Pension Plan, I urge everybody to take a look at the chart of gold. Try turning that chart upside down. Then you're looking at the loss of purchasing power that's going on in Canada. When all Canadians realize this, there's going to be anarchy in the streets. This is where we're at right now. So, and that's for real. And then I just want to mention that I think the topic that needs to be talked about here is Frank Vaughan, a very popular podcaster in Saskatchewan, did a deep dive on the fentanyl and the money laundering, and he pointed out that the 12% of the GDP of Canada is attributed to money laundering and drugs.
Thank you. So I'll just say that. I'll just say this. I'll just say this. Our Deputy Premier, Minister of Public Safety, Emergency Preparedness, Emergency Response, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, they are going gangbusters on these topics. We're doing it different in Alberta. It's compassionate care. It's not providing more drugs to individuals. That's what we believe in Alberta. So thank you. Trying to give people a path forward. Go ahead, over here.
Good evening, I'm Timothy from right here in Edmonton. And first of all, as a cancer survivor myself, double hit lymphoma, I want to apologize for the ignorant, offensive behavior of the earlier cancer survivor. Continuing on from there, I work in civil engineering, and in engineering we deal with facts. The facts in the situation are clear. Alberta's natural resources and hardworking entrepreneurial people could make this land the freest, most prosperous region in the world. Yet Ottawa continually hamstrings our potential, siphoning our prosperity to the benefit of the East, hundreds of billions of dollars. Since Eastern Canada annexed us in 1905, without a vote, or any say in the matter, Albertans have been taken advantage of and increasingly underrepresented federally. Queen's University law professor Bruce Party notes that in a negotiation, you know you're winning when the other party is coming to you with offers, but we keep going begging to Ottawa.
Okay.
Quebec has shown us the way. Why don't we follow their example and have a referendum?
Okay, thank you. So Can I ask, Premier, eventually when we get you to wrap, can you include some of the stats and facts on Quebec and how they do it and what we're trying to get to here? They do a lot of these things very, very well. Over here.
Good evening. My name is Logan West, and I'm a born and raised Albertan and Edmontonian, and I'm the Vice President Student Life of the University of Alberta Students' Union. In my opinion, for a strong and sovereign Alberta, we are facing a critical issue, and that is investing in Alberta's youth. Alberta's student-age population is rapidly increasing, and we are currently facing a significant youth unemployment crisis. Unemployment for young Albertans aged 15 to 24 in July was at 20.3%, and 28% of returning students can't find employment. A meaningful way to provide employment opportunities is to reinstate the Summer Temporary Employment Program, or STEP. This was a win-win initiative, a 4 to 16-week wage subsidy program that offered employers a subsidy to hire high school or post-secondary students for summer jobs. This program annually created roughly 3,000 summer jobs for domestic students, providing students with valuable work experience, transferable skills, and income while supporting Alberta business. I believe these steps are essential for a strong and sovereign Alberta. Thank you.
Hey, hang on one sec. What are you studying?
I am in a Bachelor of Arts program studying film studies and women's and gender studies with a certificate in international learning.
Okay. Awesome. Well, good.
But don't worry, I always say after that I'm going to have to do a master's degree or get a law degree or something to make sure I get a job. Thank you.
I love your sense of humor. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Over here.
Hi, I'm Sandy. I'm a world citizen and Albertan as well. So anyway, I've got 40 seconds. Okay, here we go. My concern, I'm concerned about how divisive the language is when you talk about Ottawa. While I was here, you guys said attacks, invade, anti-Alberta, blame the federal government, and against Alberta. And it's just, it's the language of divisiveness. And I'm okay with paying my taxes. I'm okay with paying Ottawa. If it means that the firefighters are going to be able to fight in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, or if little Johnny gets to have a new kidney in Saskatchewan, I'm not okay with my dollars going to pay for those ads that you have. Spewing off your point of view without really presenting the other side. I really feel the other side is not presented.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're rolling. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Farad Ranjbar. I'm thankful to the Premier and everyone else involved in hosting this event and listening to Albertans. I'm doubly thankful for the changes proposed in regards to pensions, policing, immigration, and tax collection, all of which are within the confines of what a province can decide on within Canada. But let me be clear, attempts to amend the Canadian Constitution, ending equalization, for example, or abolishing or amending the Senate are practically impossible. And I'm going to run through the rigmarole of why that is. The proposal of an amendment first has to pass the House of Commons, in which the Liberal NDPs have a majority. Then they have to go through our wonderful senators who are appointed by none other than the Prime Minister's office.
Yes.
After that, it has to pass the legislative assemblies of at least 7 other provinces. Premier Smith, as I'm sure you already know, there has been a long history of attempts made at positive reforms that give Alberta a fairer voice within Confederation, notably from Preston Manning's Reform Party, that garnered way more clout than the UCP could ever imagine having. But despite their great efforts, it's been 40 or so years, and we have nothing to show for it. So, Premier, I must...
Yes. Thank you. Sorry, man. It's like just way over the time. What are you going to do? So we've got like the lines. We're never going to get through the lines to save the time to mingle. So can I just ask group conscience? What do you think? 4 or 5 more in each line, and then we'll do the mingle. Does that sound fair? Okay. So that will mean we've got like 10 minutes each, and probably a comment from the Premier to close, and then we'll spend some time. So let's do that. Starting here. Okay.
Well, my name is Harry. I've always believed the ultimate form of public service is listening to the public, so thank you all for being here tonight. And not just the elected representatives, but the other panel members and the staff and volunteers here as well. I guess I'm broadly supportive of all of these things. I'm a 6th generation Albertan on both sides of my family, but it feels kind of like we've been here before. Premier Notley went across the country in an attempt to earn a social license from Canadians for oil development, to not a great result. Premier Kenney launched the Fair Deal Panel, a equalization referendum, got Ontario on board and other large provinces represented more than half the country against Bill C-69 and 48. So I guess what's different today, and why do you think this panel and the ideas we're discussing now are going to break through there?
That's a fair question. Okay, go ahead. Premier, do you want to address it? Or do you want to say
We want to go through a few more, and then I can have wrap-up comments.
We'll put them all down. Okay, go. Over here.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. Just with respect to all of the Alberta Pension Plan, Alberta Police Force, Alberta Taxation, and Alberta Immigration, these are all initiatives that create jobs for Albertans. As a proud Albertan, I would like to say that I have complete faith in Albertans to create world-class institutions in all of them, and I look forward to the jobs that they create. But they also insulate us from Ottawa, which is a recurring issue. If it's not an issue with the next government, it might be with the one after that. So my request is, would you please consider implementing these laws now as opposed to waiting, because as we mentioned, there's already a lead time to do a lot of these things.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Yeah. Good evening, and my name is Jibril Ibrahim. I am a proud Albertan and also Canadian. I'm also the president of Somali Canadian Cultural Society of Edmonton. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Premier and the rest of the panel for taking the time to meet with us tonight. I would like to give a perspective on different than the two individuals that spoke about refugees and immigrants. I came to Canada and almost about 85 years ago, and I know I came as a refugee and I came to Ontario. It is because of the support that I have received that I have gone back to school, work for a part-time, but also become a professional engineer today, contributing both in Canadian economy, but also the Albertans. So I don't think it's a great idea to talk about, throwing the refugees under the bus. I think we should provide all the necessary support. Yeah. But also we have to be like Ontario, where they have an adult school where those, adults who came as refugees can go back to school, get the necessary skills that they need, contribute. And we keep talking about the equalization based on populations. If we do that, that means we are also going to be increasing our population and also have a say in there. And the second item I want to talk about is the provincial police.
You're like 2 minutes in, Jibril.
Yeah, I know. I want to talk about the provincial police. And I agree with the Premier that we should have Alberta police, and I like that idea. But we should not just be on the rural area. We should also do for the municipalities who are outdated from 1950s anyway. So
thank you for being here. Thanks to the Somalian community for what you do. Thank you. Appreciate it. Over here.
Hi, I want to start off by saying that I find all of your videos very troubling. The fact that a government is showing these as factual while blaming other orders of government does not help with positive intergovernmental relations, nor does it allow for genuine conversations focused on solutions. Focusing on the immigration topic, I find blaming immigrants for problems with housing affordability, increases in unemployment, and divisiveness in our province reprehensible. These accusations themselves are divisive. Immigrants are not the cause of these issues. Your policies largely are. Please focus your governing on... I still have time left, thank you. Please focus your governing on building...
Let's go over here, thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am. I absolutely know that you are all thinking the same thing I'm thinking. It doesn't matter though. Like, just let her go. Let's try over here. Ma'am, go ahead.
All right. My name is Catherine, and I am a lifelong Albertan, and I'm very committed to building strong and healthy communities. Sorry, it's distracting. I am concerned with how immigration is being framed in this conversation and in this video. It contains misleading, if not false, information. And like even using words like open door policy, when in reality, people who come to Canada do go through very rigorous screening processes. The vast, I don't think I'm being that political. The vast majority are selected and invited here.
Okay.
On average, newcomers receive less in provincial services than Canadian-born residents, not more. So if the goal is to select more of the new arrivals, that the Alberta government does that, how does withholding provincial supports help us to achieve that goal?
Thank you. Premier can add that to her comments in the end. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is for a question for the provincial police, right? I used to be an informant for the Calgary police, right? And I caught those guys covering up child porn for their fellow police officer.
Oh boy.
And so basically, you're talking about another provincial police system. How is that going to be any better when all these cops are covering up their crimes? And District 8 is the police place.
I would just say if there's anything, look, if you got any criminal allegations, report it to the authorities, is what I would say. Go ahead over here.
So I'm Iranian Canadian. I also like to talk about immigration. And so you talk about that you want to do something about immigration in Canada. Why you haven't done it? Like you could just do it, like build houses. You said the problem is with immigration, too many people coming here. Just build the houses. Like that's how you can solve the problem. Stop interrupting me. And I'm a skilled worker. I came here 15 years ago. I brought my education and work experience, and Canada paid nothing for my education and work experience that I did in another country. I did a studying for free in Sweden and Iran, and you didn't pay for that. And I even brought $10,000 with me when I came to Canada. And if you're talking about the refugees that come here with less money or less education or work experience, they have come from war. So you expect them to do war, like they have to escape their country. And my parents wanted, you would let other people to go ahead. But whenever it's against your will, against your opinion, you don't let people go over.
No, it's not that at all. You can make your opinion known. It's how you do it. Let's go over here.
Hi. Yeah, thanks. I'll be brief. So effectively, I'm a maximalist on this issue. So yes, independent police, independent pensions, independent immigration policy, independent tax agency. Because without that, we have no, even the grains of sovereignty. And without that, we don't have any leverage over Ottawa. So if we build those things, like Quebec has, we have real leverage, and we should be using the notwithstanding clause and Section 33 and all of these things in order to actually get what we want from Ottawa. And we should have been doing that for the last 5, 10, 15 years, and we haven't. So as much as I appreciate everyone's time here, I would like to say, get on with it.
Okay. Gotcha. I think we've got one more on this side. Go ahead.
Hello there. My name is Anne. I'm an Albertan, and I don't want any of the things that you're saying here tonight. I believe that Alberta should not be creating division in this critical time of international diplomacy and trade. We talk in business about a rising tide lifting all boats. While Alberta's influence in Canada will increase as our government and population recognize the inherent value of all peoples in Canada. Alberta's unique. Certainly, so is Quebec, the Maritimes, our nation's north. Aligning our efforts with national priorities established in partnership nationally will increase Alberta's influence in Canada's direction. Political polarization is more common provincially. So by optimizing the rights of all Canadians at a national level, we're going to avoid some of that polarization, as I can hear it in my ear right here. Canadians should be the priority, and it's best achieved at that national level.
Thank you. Can I have one more? Just one more. One more. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much for being here, Premier Danielle Smith and all the members of the I can't be quiet. My name's Rob, and I wanted to say thank you. I'm for all this that's going on. I don't feel there's any divisiveness or anything like that. I feel it was very well presented, and there's no against anybody. It's very nonpartisan presented, and I'm very thankful for that. So, and I have Made in Alberta. I designed that, and I was born here in Alberta, and I'm glad that you're giving the choice to people on whatever happens in the future. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for all the ones that have been so, however they want to present their opinions without respect.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
So we're down to the wire. Premier, there's a lot of questions coming here, and I don't know how you're going to address all of them, but I'd like you to try and sort of bookend as we thank you all for coming tonight. If you could do that, and then maybe just remind everybody why we did come in some closing comments.
Well, I'll try to identify a few of the reasons for why this conversation has started and why it seems to be that it's so polarized. I feel like there are those who believe that Ottawa can be reasoned with, can be negotiated with, and just by sitting down and having tea together, we'll be able to resolve some of the policies that we have. That has not been my experience in 3 years of dealing with Ottawa. So let me just tell you what's coming so that you understand. As of January 1st of 2026, one of the federal policies is that we are all going to have 20% of the cars being purchased in the country be net zero cars. Sure, I hear some partisans here saying that's great. So let me just tell you the math on this. Alberta buys 225,000 cars a year. We would have to buy 44,000 cars to reach that target on January 1st. The sum total of all hybrid and electric cars being created in the country is 25,000. So this is the nature of what we're dealing with an irrational federal government that has put forward policies that are unachievable. I know there's lots of folks in the tech sector here. We have 17,000 megawatts of asks from data center companies that want to build in Alberta. And we have no one willing to come forward to build a natural gas power plant because of federal regulations that says that the executives will go to jail in 10 years if they're not 95% abated. That's the net zero power regs at the federal level. I've been trying for 3 years to get them to see reason on that. That is also in the Constitution. The electrical grid is provincial jurisdiction. So look, I am all for diplomacy, but you have to be willing to meet people on a two-way street. And I think that's what I've been observing with Ottawa, is they're not meeting us on a two-way street. When it comes to immigration, I just want to put this into perspective. I mean, to go to the numbers, I know the personal experience. I know we had an immigration system we were all so proud of because it was working so well up until the most recent couple of years. If we could just go back to having a more normal number of newcomers coming into the country, like 1% even, we would bring down the social tension and we would be able to accommodate everyone who came here. And so this is the issue. It's a matter of the numbers. So if we had 1% of the population per year coming to Alberta, that'd be about 50,000 a year. We've had 450,000 come in the last 3 years. This is the reason why people are feeling like we might have a little bit of problem at the federal level with the numbers that are coming into the country. It is not an anti-immigrant sentiment. It is a matter of what is the right level and what can we absorb. So not only can we afford it as taxpayers, but for a newcomer arriving, they have the support that they need as well. So I hope that you take it in that spirit. That's what we're trying to understand, is what is so different in the last couple of years. And a lot of these policies manifest in the last couple of years, which is why it has created the social tension we have now, which is why we're having this conversation. So Just a couple more things I'd say. What is Quebec doing? Well, Quebec has international offices. They have 32 international offices, and they have about 5 times as many staff in those international offices. They do direct negotiation, and they do direct advocacy on their trade agreements and everything that their economy has to offer themselves. They don't ask Ottawa to do it on their behalf. We have about 16, and we are also expanding out our international office presence for that exact reason. They have international agreements. They've got a law that says if the federal government signs an international agreement, it doesn't become enforced in Quebec unless the Quebec legislature also affirms those international agreements. That's something they already do. They collect their own personal income taxes. They also have opt-outs. If they don't like the federal program dictates, they opt out of the program and they get the same amount of compensation so they can spend it as they like. They also have a transfer of tax points, so they get more tax points because of doing some of these opt-outs. They have their own police, they have their own pension, they have their own immigration system. They choose 55% of the newcomers that come into Quebec through their permanent nominee program. And they have a lot of strength on agriculture, as you've seen with the dairy issue. And so agriculture is an area of provincial jurisdiction, and I can tell you they defend that tooth and nail. So when you look at what are we talking about here today, we're talking about all the things that Quebec is already doing. And that is the question, is do we want to become more like Quebec in managing our own affairs? So a gentleman asked, yeah. So a gentleman asked, what is the difference today? Well, the difference is today is we're bigger. Maybe we couldn't have had this conversation when we had 1.5 million population. Maybe we couldn't have even had it when we had a 3 million population. Maybe we couldn't have had it when we were only generating $20 billion in revenue. Well, maybe we can have it now that we're generating $75 billion in revenue. One of the things I would ask you to just consider, because I think we have a different interpretation on some of the historical developments. When I look at Rupert's Land and then Northwest Territories and then Alberta, when I look at the increasing numbers of areas of jurisdiction Quebec has taken over, that is responsible government. That as you develop the means to take care of your own affairs, then you start taking care of more of your own affairs. Are we at that point now? That's what we're asking about. It may not have been the right time 20 years ago when this conversation started. It may not have even been the right time 10 years ago, but is the right time now? I think it is, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to say about it. So thank you.
Premier, thank you so much. So just in making a quick closing comment, can I first say, would all of you join me in thanking these panelists that gave of their time for Alberta? You know, we could all have a few takeaways from a night tonight, but this is the one that I'm going to choose to focus on. Here we are in the middle of August, and I don't know if we've got 1,000 or 1,200 people in the room to discuss politics for 2.5 hours, which shows me how much you people and the people of Alberta care about this province. I love that. So thanks for coming tonight. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. We'll have the panelists stay if they'd like to, okay? Cheers.